My name is Caroline DeLinks, and this is my coral reef protection and restoration project. This has to do with biodiversity, which is defined by the Convention of Biological Diversity as the variability among living organisms from all sources, including inter alia, terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems, and the ecological complexes of which they are part. This includes diversity within species, between species, and of ecosystems. Biodiversity is the foundational aspect of the world which all species rely on for their existence. The loss of biodiversity is devastating as it removes resources which organisms need to function as a part of the environment. The World Wildlife Fund, in a report from 2022, found that over the past 50 years, an average of 69% of wildlife populations have decreased. The reasons are because of deforestation, overfishing or harmful fishing methods, poaching, invasive species, climate change, pollution, and overpopulation of humans. According to the Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services report, at least one species goes into extinction per year because of biodiversity loss. Much of the biodiversity loss occurs in developing countries where a large quantity of Earth's plants and animals reside. The tropical Andes and Amazon rainforest hosts 1/6 of the world's population of plants and animals. The deforestation of these places is thus absolutely detrimental to the world's biodiversity. We as humans rely on the natural world for our food, jobs, medicine, resources, clean water, clean air, and our own personal enjoyment. The South African National Biodiversity Institute collected data which revealed that more than 418,000 jobs rely on biodiversity. These jobs include jobs around protective efforts, extractive use, research, restoration, tourism, and recreation. In developing countries, more than 35% of the workforce is dependent on biodiversity, and only 1% of government spending goes towards biodiversity. I'm focusing specifically on coral reefs, and they are much like how rainforests are essential to land species. Coral reefs are essential to the biodiversity of ocean and marine organisms. They are estimated to host over 25% of all known marine species. The variety of species in reefs is also greater than anywhere else in the world. Reefs themselves secrete calcium carbonate, which provide three-dimensional foundations that host multitudes of life. Coral polyps grow on top of ancestral skeletons, forming interconnected colonies. There are also soft corals that make up fans, trees, whips, and grasses. Coral first appeared over 500 million years ago, making it one of the oldest living organisms. Reefs provide locations for organisms to spawn, reproduce, feed, live, and survive. And at any one reef, thousands of organisms can be observed. They are extremely delicate, and their existence is indispensable, meaning that the loss of our reefs is a grave issue. Just like our forests, reefs are impacted drastically by overfishing and harmful fishing methods, invasive species, climate change, pollution, overpopulation, and improper recreational behavior. Reefs are a major tourism attraction, and many individuals seek out reefs for water sports such as snorkeling and diving. Unfortunately, when practiced incorrectly, these sports can harm coral and add to the loss of coral reef biodiversity. Kicking up sand can suffocate coral reefs and the organisms living on the reefs. Touching or standing on coral, since they are so sensitive, also can kill thousands of organisms at a time. Removing coral from the ocean removes potential base structures of new forming colonies or housing for other small organisms. Bringing toxic chemicals into the ocean via skin product will also harm the reefs, and leaving behind trash or lost equipment causes pollution. For these reasons, my target audience will be those looking to visit coral reefs: divers, snorkelers, spearfishers, boaters, and the average water sport enthusiast. These individuals can assist by incorporating proper etiquette whilst enjoying reefs and in passing on this etiquette to those they know or see. By interacting with coral improperly, we weaken biodiversity by killing coral, which provides thousands of organisms with homes. This is my social ecological framework. It explains how coral reefs interact with the environment and how we interact with the reefs and the environment as well. It starts with the reefs here. I like to go to the ecosystem services first because coral reefs host many primary producers and also provide carbon sequestration, which means the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere gets taken out and stored in liquid form. These ecosystem services also provide provisional services for us and other organisms, food, feed, and fuel. And that connects down to cultural services, since that benefits us. The cultural services that coral reefs provide to humans are ecotourism and just plain existence values, which basically means the existence of reefs make our own existence more enjoyable. Coral reefs also provide volunteer opportunities that help us assist with saving the environment. But these services, the cultural services that the reefs provide, degradation from inundation occurs. So, since so many people are existing and visiting the reefs, what I'm talking about in this whole presentation, that lowers biodiversity. It lowers the coastal habitat protection, since reefs protect the coast. And that means that if so much damage occurs, they won't be able to sustain the sporting services anymore, which brings us back here. This is an example of an unhealthy, dying coral reef, what you definitely don't want to see. So there's some management practices from different organizations. NOAA has a coral reef conservation program, which is a 4-step plan. The first step is improving habitat quality for corals. Research is dedicated to supporting reefs and negating activities which are a nuisance to the ecosystem, as well as reducing invasive species. Second is preventing the loss of corals and their habitat. So they identify high-risk areas and take action via emergency response, recovering damages from physical events like vessel groundings, and paying closer attention to the ways in which each reef changes to catch a negative impact early. Enhancing coral population resilience is the third step, where innovative techniques will be put to play and researched further in order to improve reef resilience and reduce the mortality of coral larvae. Restoration at ecologically meaningful scales is also a part of this step, but requires a lot of teamwork and communication, something that this whole program really relies on. And finally is improving coral health and survival. This is a crucial step as it sets us up to improve techniques that will control the spread of coral diseases and try to monitor the organisms that feed on coral reefs to help survival rates. And it also includes coral nurseries where scientists have been harvesting healthy coral to introduce to the natural environment. This program has created a contract-based emergency response system to locate where reef damage has occurred and mitigate it as soon as possible. The Nature Conservatory has created coral innovation hubs around a few different places, Hawaii and Puerto Rico being two. Lab facilities and nurseries are developing new techniques to breed coral with greater survival rates, just like NOAA are doing and many other research companies. Growing healthy coral and reintroducing it to the environment could be a means of catching up with some of the damage done from climate change and ocean acidification. People have been doing the same thing with trees to combat deforestation, for example. The Nature Conservatory is also developing a technique called microfragmentation to stimulate coral growth. Coral growth rate is naturally slow, so speeding up the process would be beneficial. And the United States Environmental Protection Agency has a Clean Water Act. The Act protects watersheds and coastal zones of coral reef areas to reduce land-based source pollution. So, a few of the things that they do, they provide funding and assistance to state and territory coral monitoring / assessment programs. They work with states to improve the environmental protection policies. They provide compensation to unavoidable impacts and work with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to develop plans that will minimize the discharge of dredge or fill material. With the NOAA, they revise water quality standards to ensure criteria are fully protective of coral. They reduce trash pollution into coastal waters through their Trash-Free Waters program, and they ensure that ocean disposal of dredge material does not adversely impact the coral, since it's not ever going to be completely avoidable. And I really think that these agencies are on the right path and have good plans moving forward. However, I do think we need more local involvement. In terms of the EPA's program, I'm certain that many small businesses get away with disposal of dredge material in coastal waters, which most definitely impacts reefs. I feel that if an agency really wants to see a difference, they need to be communicating all together and involved in each community, with more individuals advocating for their programs and the changes we need to make. Getting people to work for them, maybe they could assign locations around different countries and cities in those countries to monitor the things that they want to monitor. Not everyone is going to do their own research and visit their website to figure these things out. And so thus I think there should be a global educational program teaching all people of all ages about the severity of the world's ecosystems and what we can all do to help individually and as a community. Everyday proposed management practices that everybody can partake in: recycling, dispose of waste properly, minimize fertilizer use, change modes of transportation to be more environmentally friendly, like carpooling, biking, electric vehicles and bikes. Be conscious about food purchases of fish as well as buying fish from aquariums, or for aquariums. Reduce stormwater runoff by collecting rainwater, and spread the word. Future ideas: I'd like to see an education program to get people to understand what is happening. And in terms of controlling how people treat coral reefs when partaking in water sports, I think educational presentations prior to dive tours or snorkeling tours could be provided. Hiring people to monitor beaches with reefs to prevent people from taking coral or other found items home with them. Create laws that prohibit the collection of coral or mistreatment of the reefs. Actually enforce the laws, especially on no littering, to avoid more pollution. And create recycling plants in cities that don't have them. I had an idea for a swag product where it would be focusing on educating people who are about to go diving and snorkeling. It'd be a voluntary 20-30 minute course where people can learn to take care of the reefs, learn about how the ecosystem is suffering and the science behind it. This would include ocean acidification, over-harvesting, pollution, proper dive etiquette, and the changes we can make in our day-to-day lives. In return for doing the volunteer course, one would receive a unique dive mask strap, which is what I have in this picture. I thought that all would be made of sustainable material and have images of different marine organisms on it, and maybe there would only be a few of each design so that people could collect their unique dive mask and post about it to spread the word. I plan to continue to try to talk to individuals about biodiversity loss and what we can do to change. I recently got an electric bike and I'm trying to change my day-to-day routine to do things in a more sustainable way. The island I live on does not actually have a recycling plant, so I am planning to figure out what steps need to be taken to resolve that issue and maybe add a plant or at least a means of transporting the recyclable material to the main island. I'd also like to research more about how scientists are growing the coral in nurseries and the process of cultivating those organisms and transporting them to the natural environment. And I hope this topic will become one of the #1 learned subjects, and until then, we can all do our part by spreading information and making changes in our own lives. And thank you for listening, and have a good day. This is my contact information for any questions.